Way to go, Tic Tac!
That's how you punch.
Wakanda forever!
Nah, you wouldn't have heard of me.
Let me put you on hold.
Dance off, bro! He's a friend from work!
I can do this all day.
Yeah, I know.
What up, guys? It's Dom, and welcome back to another movie review. Today we are going over and ranking Final Destination Bloodlines. Final Destination Bloodlines, released in 2025, directed by Zach Lipovsky and Adam B. Stein. Plagued by a recurring violent nightmare, a college student returns home to find the one person who can break the cycle and save her family from the horrific fate that inevitably awaits them. So it's been a while since I watched the Final Destination movies, and I really could not remember if they were very plot driven. I know this movie definitely was. This movie was less of just, oh, everyone needs to die at the end, and more of, sure, that's still the Final Destination way, but let's actually have an interesting plot and a good story to go along with it. So let's go over why I think that with the 10 essential aspects of a movie. The first essential aspect is plot. So I enjoyed the plot of this movie. I think they did a really good job of recalling back to the moment of why the family is destined to die. I think they kept coming back to that at the perfect points to remind the audience of, yes, this is why this happened and this. So I think that that's a good callback in this kind of plot. I also love the whole full circle where the beginning and the end meet up together. It's a really interesting point that I love to see, especially since that first main scene, you honestly aren't fully sure that that is the beginning scene or where the movie's going to take place, because that scene was, I think, like 20 minutes. You get really enthralled with the scene and you want to keep watching it. You assume that's just part of the movie. And then suddenly fast forward, it's her family in the future. And that I actually liked. The way that they presented it, it gave you a big shock factor and got you more engaged with the movie. So that specifically about the plot is why I think it is a good plot. The second essential aspect is attraction. Now off the bat, I'll say if you don't like gory movies, this movie will not be for you. There is some gory death scenes, but that's obviously with the title Final Destination. If you've seen any of the previous movies, you knew that was gonna happen. So I personally like that. That's why I was more engaged with the movie. I was more attracted to the movie. It was more interesting for me. But overall, the concept is just really cool. So I think that this attraction level is really high, but again, it would depend on the person, because if you don't like this kind of stuff, you're not gonna like this movie as much. The third essential aspect is theme. Now, the theme of this movie is all about family. I know that sounds like a Fast and the Furious movie, but it really is all about family. Spending the time that you have with your loved ones is the most important thing ever, because you really don't know when your final day will be. That's the message that they were trying to bring across over the whole movie. They basically named it out loud at the beginning of the movie. So that's the theme I'm going with. The fourth essential aspect is dialogue. So the dialogue overall was good. It did feel real for the most part. There were some scenes that kind of pulled me out. It didn't sound like a real conversation, but for the most part it did. So I do have to say that about the dialogue. I do think that there were some moments where the characters, I personally don't know how they weren't convinced over the whole theory that their family is destined to die. After everything they saw, I was just surprised they didn't at least think about it. There were some scenes where it just didn't feel real, because that doesn't seem like a real human reaction to someone saying, hey, look at this evidence, we're all gonna die, and they just kind of bat it away. So other than that, the dialogue was good and it did feel real. The fifth essential aspect is acting. Now the acting was okay in this movie. It wasn't bad, but it also wasn't fantastic. There's just one actor that I would wanna actually mention, and that is Tio Briones, who played Charlie. He was really good at acting like a teenager. I feel like if I envisioned the teenager in this movie, he is the only one that really felt like a real teenager. The rest did feel more like adults playing younger roles. And that might not be at all his reasoning. It could just be that's the way that his character was written. But at least for me, that's how it felt like. It felt like he was the only actual teenager on screen, surrounded by other teenagers that weren't teenagers. So that's really the only thing, because he also did a okay, decent job. No one did fantastic, but he was just the one I can pick on for being the best teenager there. The sixth essential aspect is cinematography. So they did both good and bad with cinematography. The visuals were fantastic. I think everything looked really realistic, and they did a good job of actually making it feel like actual deaths and not just gory murder scenes out of like a horror movie. I think they did a really good job of balancing that when it came to the visuals. And when it came to the emotional side, I went into the movie expecting everyone to die, so I never actually got the emotional attachment to any of the characters. So when some of them ended up dying, I could really care less. So that's just something that's just the Final Destination name. Just it being a Final Destination movie made that harder for probably not just me, probably the whole audience to really get emotionally connected with these characters. So it's really just the fault of the name, not necessarily the movie, because I feel like they did put in the effort of trying to get you acclimated with all these characters to kind of get a deeper connection so that you would feel more for them. But I didn't, because I knew that they were most likely going to die by the end. The seventh essential aspect is editing. So this movie is an hour and 50 minutes long. I think that's a good length. I'm glad that they didn't push it to that 2-hour mark, because at the end of the day, it's a Final Destination movie. People come to watch it to see how these characters are going to die, not really watch the story. However, because they had a good story to go along with it, it made me want to keep watching it. So even if they kind of pushed it towards that 2-hour mark, I probably still would have been fine with it because they had a good story to back it up. But honestly, an hour and 50 minutes for this kind of movie, it's a very good length. The eighth essential aspect is soundtrack. Now, I did like the soundtrack of this movie, specifically at the beginning where they were on I forget the name of the building, the Skyline, that's what it was called. When they were in the actual Skyline at the beginning, that soundtrack and the music playing, the live music playing in that restaurant was really good. I feel like it fit the time period, it fit the theme, it had a bit of an ambiance to it to know that there is something that's going to be going wrong. And that kind of echoed throughout the whole movie, where the soundtrack changed when you knew something was about to happen. And that itself is a good use of soundtrack. So I have to say the soundtrack overall is pretty good. The ninth essential aspect is directing. So I feel like it's the director's job to take these previous 8 essential aspects, put them together to make a movie that's worth watching. And the directors of this movie were Zach Lipovsky and Adam B. Stein, and they've previously only directed one movie together, and that movie was Freaks. I've never personally watched it. I have no idea what it's about, but I also didn't know that this movie was directed by 2 different people. I think they put their heads together and made a good movie. I honestly think this is a good movie. It's not a great movie. It's not a fantastic movie. It's nowhere near a bad movie. This movie is something that I could rewatch in the future. I could see myself watching it because the quality is at least there to the point where I would want to watch it again. So overall, fantastic job. And the 10th essential aspect is time. This movie will most likely stand the test of time as the best Final Destination movie. Now, that could just be me not remembering the majority of the movies just because it was so long since I watched them, and I probably didn't pay attention to it as much when I was younger. But just because the Final Destination name on its own is going to keep it up there in people's memories. People know the Final Destination movies. They will remember Bloodlines because, one, it is the most recent, but also, from what I know, it is the best. So I do think it will stand the test of time. But again, like I said in the traction, if you don't like these kind of movies, it might just fade out of your memory. You might not remember it at all. Now, onto the ratings. So, Rotten Tomatoes critics gave it a 92%, Rotten Tomatoes audience gave it an 88%, and IMDb gave it a 70%. Now, I'm not agreeing with the 92. I think that the movie isn't perfect, so it can't be in the 90s. I also do not think it deserves to be in the 70s. I think that is a little bit too low. I think the effort they put into the plot and actually making a good movie already puts it higher than that. I think it's also below Rotten Tomatoes audience. I don't think any of these actually fit. I think low 80s to an 80 would be a pretty good ranking because it's about 8 out of 10 there. I mean, the 2 points really just, or I guess 20%, really just comes from it not being any like fantastic acting that really draws you in, and the fact that the movie doesn't, for a movie about death, it doesn't really bring you in with the characters and get you emotionally attached. I feel like if it did spend a little more time getting you connected to the characters, or maybe, I mean, obviously it's a Final Destination movie, but maybe if I went in not thinking that way, that could also help. But from my standing of me watching it, 80 is probably where I'll put it. Maybe an 83 is the maximum I would do it. And finally, the rankings. So in 2025, it's going to be third above Captain America, Brave New World, and below Thunderbolts with an asterisk. I personally, this wasn't a hard choice for me. Thunderbolts, to me, way better movie. I enjoyed it so much. I think it clicked in so many different ways. And Captain America Brave New World upset me in plenty of different ways. I think overall it's not a bad movie. It's just, it has a lot of cringy dialogue and acting that I just don't like seeing. I think it's better than some of the movies Marvel's put out in the past few years, but it's nowhere near the top. So I personally, it was very easy that Bloodlines goes right in between these two because it seems like the averaged out number between the two. In the 2020s, it's going to be 14th, above Moana 2 and below The Fall Guy. Now, this was a little bit harder for me. I did do some moving around before I finalized it. Moana 2 is just, to me, not as good. Moana 1, I guess, is the best way of me putting it. I think it leaned into the childish behavior a lot more than Moana 1 did. I think the original Moana, it spoke to me more as an adult than it would only for kids. I feel like adults can enjoy Moana 1 a lot more than Moana 2. And that's really what put it below here, because I did enjoy myself more watching Bloodlines than Moana 2. And The Fall Guy, I just enjoyed it more. I think the plots are pretty much on par. The action sequences, pretty much the same as well. I just think the acting was a lot better, and especially the visuals and the emotional side. The cinematography and the acting was just so much better in The Fall Guy to Bloodlines that I had to put it above it. And in all time, it's going to be 37th, above Warcraft and again below The Fall Guy. So I'm not going to explain why it's below Fall Guy because it's there for the exact same reasons. But I did put it above Warcraft simply because I just enjoyed the movie more. I just enjoy the concept a little more than Warcraft. I was never really big into the World of Warcraft game, so I didn't know any of the lore. It didn't really speak to me as much. It was cool to see. I do enjoy the world. I do enjoy the orcs. I enjoy the rivalry between all the races. I just personally enjoyed myself watching Bloodlines a little more. Now, was that because of the acting? Not really. Both had similar acting. The visuals I did like more in Bloodlines. The emotional side, it was about the same for both. So it was really just up to the concept, and why I put it above it. That's all I have for Final Destination Bloodlines. If you guys enjoyed this review, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and make sure to comment what movie you want me to review next. Make sure to check out my best friend, Mr. Majoritarian. He does the same exact thing I do. He's the one that got me into movie reviewing in the first place. The only difference is he has two different lists. He has one for entertainment and one for cinematography. So if that's something that you might enjoy more, definitely go check him out. His link will always be in my description. And I hope you guys have an amazing night. Peace out.